can post it and share it on social media and stuff as you would like. Okay. Slideshow from current slide. I think it's paused right now. Got it that it's recording. Do you see my slide advance? Okay. So the thing that'll set it apart from other hornets, other insects you can see is going to be kind of two features. Obviously, its size, it's very large. We know it's at least going to be 1.5 inches. When they emerge from the nest, they're their full adult size. So there's no such thing as a baby Asian giant hornet. Its head's going to be a deciphering factor because it's like as big and as wide as its body. A lot of other insects like cicada killers and different things, their heads just are more narrow. So it'd be like us having a giant pumpkin. It kind of goes from like shoulder to shoulder, okay? Their bodies are going to be black to brown in color. And then that striping on its abdomen, it's uniform and lateral across, right? So there's going to be nothing that drops down into a teardrop. There's not going to be any spots. That's going to be the features that you're going to look for if you're seeing an Asian giant hornet, okay? Its head is big and as wide as its body, and then the uniform lateral across. You all know what yellow jackets look like being beekeepers, right? You know how they have the teardrops that drop down and the spots, right? Asian giant hornets do not have those. Really briefly, we'll run through its life cycle because this will help you understand how it could, if it's around when it would impact your hives, as well as why we do what we do during the year and why you can do what you want to do. So starting at the top, moving in a clockwise position, right? December, January, think winter. What are things doing in the winter? Well, they're sleeping. So actually the workers and the males, they die, they don't make it through, right? Their job is done. But those new queens, they will overwinter, meaning they're going to find themselves somewhere sheltered, dig themselves into the soil. And then what season comes after winter? Spring. So they will wake up, right? Those queens, if they successfully mated, they will find somewhere to build that underground nest. Now, yes, in Washington, every nest we have found has been inside a tree cavity. This can happen in its native range, and that's what we're seeing here. So in the spring, they'll start to build their nests, right? They'll start to lay only worker hornets. Once there's enough worker hornets out and about, that queen will not leave her colony anymore, okay? Because the workers are going out to do their work, meaning they're catching individual insects, mashing them up into the balls, bringing it back to feed the other hornets, and they're helping expand that colony, okay? When that happens, it's going to be summertime, and that's when we're going to start seeing the hornets. So really, there's not going to be enough out. The population won't be large enough until at least July, okay? Then as we move into the fall, there's enough workers. The colony's big enough. The queen has reached what we refer to as a maturity. The colony is mature enough, or she's mature enough that she is going to say, I am done with the workers. And then what do you think she's going to switch over to start laying? She's going to start actually laying the new males plus the new queens. So she lays them both, okay? And then from that, in that fall time, we're having the new queens and males. Obviously, queens and males are a lot bigger than the workers. So because of that size, they could need some more protein in their diet. And what is a good one-stop shop source for a lot of food? Your beehive. So if you look at my graphic here, you can see it's turning red for those two reasons, right? New queens and males, new queens, danger, because that could be new nests next year. And also because of that size, they're more hungry. So that's when they tend to attack the honeybees instead of just individuals, the entire colonies, right? So I'll talk about that in a minute. But following that, the new queens and males, they're emerge from the nest, mate very close to the nest. And then the new queens will fly off to disperse for overwinter. And those males and the virgins will, or the males and the workers will die, as well as that original founding queen. Okay. The next thing I'm going to talk about is how they could attack your hives. And then if you have any questions on that part, we can go ahead and answer them then. And then I'll really get into what WSDA found, what WSDA is doing. Okay. So we talked about when they want to attack your hives. Remember what time of year that would be, what season? It would be that fall time, right?
Yeah.
So what happens if they do decide to go after the hive, right? So they'll always kind of live in that hunting phase where they're grabbing individual insects, taking them back to feed the young. But if they decide, hey, this is a really good one, this is a good source of food, they'll mark it with a pheromone, which is essentially that scent or that smell that lures the hornets in. Okay, the hornets say, hey, this is a hive we've marked for later. They will return back there with their friends. So the honeybees will fly out to protect themselves. And then, of course, the hornets will grab them. They will systematically chop off every bee's head. So all these bee-headed dead bees are right outside of it. And then they will enter into occupying the hive, harvesting the honeybee's brood and the pupae, taking it back to feed their own. They actually won't touch the honey. They don't want it. They just want that easy to get nice piece of protein. And then they will harvest this until it's no longer viable, right? They don't want it anymore. They're just kind of done. As a beekeeper, if they are in the slaughter occupation phase and you happen to stumble upon this, your chances of getting stung are going to increase a ton. And your normal beekeeping attire won't keep you safe from the sting of an Asian giant hornet because their stinger is about 1/4 of an inch long. So it's going to go right through your suit. Okay. So with that being said, do you have any questions before I move on to what we found last year and what we're going to be doing this year?
Hi, thank you so much for this presentation. I liked it so much. One question. So protein, it's honey, of course. Yeah, they're taking honey from the bees, correct?
No,
or not?
No, the hornets won't go after the honey. So they eat protein, right? So the hornets, what they want inside of the hive is just the brood and the pupae of the bees. Okay.
Oh.
So throughout their life, they eat individual insects, but that's going to require them to rip off the legs, rip off their wings, take the head off. But obviously those baby bees is just kind of one nice meaty fat thing they can pull from. And it's going to be the same if they harvest like paper wasp nests or other insect nests. That's just really easy for them to grab and go. That's why before they do that, they slaughter all the adult bees and don't use their bodies. They just kind of drop them outside and then they go in for what's easy.
Thank you. That's horrible.
All right, so I'm going to move on to showing you what we found last year. Okay, so this is a map of Washington. You see lots of purple and orange dots. Maybe towards the very top of the Canada-Washington border here, you might see a red one. An orange and a purple dot is basically someone's gone online and they have submitted a sighting to us. Orange dots, we're saying it's definitely not an Asian giant hornet because they submitted a photo and we can say, nope, it's not, here's what it is. Purple dots are, unfortunately, there isn't a photo or there just isn't enough information for us to confirm that it's a hornet or not. Red ones are going to be, yes, it's a hornet. So out of all these sightings that people submitted to us last year, we had 6 positive sightings just from the public alone. So hats off to you guys for keeping your eyes open and sending us in pictures of insects you see out flying around. We had 14 total detections last year, and 6 of those came from the public like you, okay? And I'll tell you how you can report at the end, but remember, you can go online, call our hotline, or shoot us an email. Okay, so that's by picture or by vision confirmations. And the other thing we do is Washington, we set traps each year. So the map you see here is going to be the very northwest corner of Whatcom County. So it's going to be right there up on the border. Where you see these white dots kind of stop, that's going to be the Canada border. From basically the edge of land to going inland, it's going to be about 30 miles wide. From the top to the bottom, about 30 miles south. If you see this second sparse of dots here, that's going to be Bellingham. Up here is going to be kind of the Blaine and Linden area. Any white dot you see here is going to be a trap set up in place by WSDA. We start each year with over 750 traps and expand as the year goes out. Last year, we had over 900 traps placed. I think it was about 961. And out of those, oh, is it paused? Well, can you see my picture now? All right, so looking at the map here, the bottom where the white stops is Canada, goes south about 30 miles, from east and west about 30 miles. So that's kind of the area where we placed our traps. In the traps last year, we did capture 4 Asian giant hornets. The map on the left you see over there is a map of experimental lures and traps that we use. So it's the same zoomed out version that you're seeing over on the right. However, if you want any reference, you can see the I-5 corridor. I think that's the road that runs. Is I-5 the road that runs north and south? No one's listening to me. Okay. So we caught 4 Asian giant hornets. 6 were reported from the public out of 14. So we're up to that many now. And how do I get to the next screen? Okay. Now this is where you guys came in handy, right? You set Asian giant hornet bottle traps and monitor them from July through November. Props to you guys. We had 770 citizen scientists actually register their traps with us. Okay, so you can see here in Washington, right, the bottom left one, the top right one, you see all the orange dots and all the yellow diamonds are places where you set bottle traps and monitor us for them. So honestly, can't thank you enough, because you guys get to look in the areas that we actually can't, right? You get to track for the hornets to make sure they're not spreading. You would be the first confirmations outside of the areas that we do. So great thanks to you, because the time and resources to go down into those areas, we really need your help for. So we eradicated 3 nests in last year. So that's going to bring us up to 4 nests total. The picture on the very far left you see is going to be the nest from 2020. I just like to show you how what the cells look like as they're not stacked in each other. Each Asian giant hornet nest has been found inside of an alder snag. So basically a dead rotting alder tree. In Asia, it is not about 11 to 15% are found in trees. They're typically ground nesters, right? And that's what you would expect to see here. Really can't tell you why this pattern is trending, because this is the first time they've actually been outside of their native range, right? So I can't tell you if it's going to be based on any type of topography or basically maybe the biology of the hornet that came over and what they were used to. I'm just going to tell you that's what we're seeing now. And I don't know if it'll continue to trend like this or not, because this is only what we're observing. You can see nest 1, 2, and 3 from these pictures. If we were to count up every single cell and possible hornet that could have hatched at this point in time, that's 2,400 cells. That could potentially be 2,400 hornets. Yeah, now remember, they're not all going to be queens that will move forth to start nests next year. All of the 3 nests that we removed last year, we did remove them before any new queens were laid. So they only had 1 queen inside the nest, which was the founding queen. So out of these 3 nest populations would not have been moved forward. If we did miss a nest out there though, however, there could be a population that came out of it. Last thing I want to talk about how we do this, and then we can pause for questions. Actually, 2 more things. I might just finish. So basically what we do is in order to find the nests, right, we rely a lot on the public from you for seeing and telling us where they are. We rely on the public to help us trap, and then we rely on our trapping too. A lot of the times if people send us a picture and we can confirm it to be a hornet, we can go out to that location, set a bunch of traps to lure it in. Sometimes it might even be on someone's eaves of their house, eating some other insects up there, and we can go out there and capture it with a net. Once we have that hornet captured, we're actually going to chill it out on some ice, flip it over, attach a tracking, a radio tag transmitter to it, let it warm up, feed it some jam, and off it goes. Because when she wakes up, by nature, right, she's been gone from him for a while, so she's going to fly back to her nest. Then we're going to use that signal to fly in the nest. Once we're there, we put on our fancy space suits, seal that nest up, and then actually we're going to stick a modified vacuum in there and suck the hornets out. Bottom middle picture there for you to see is just to show that each eradication is unique in its own way, right? So sometimes it takes us a little extra steps in planning. For example, this one we had to require a boom lift because the nest was over 70 feet up in the air, okay? A little bit of research that we've been working on to highlight from you last year is, does anyone know what frass is? Frass is essentially insect poop. So if you look at insect frass, right, you can figure out what those insects are eating. At the bottom of the nest, there is going to be insect frass, and you can dig that out, look at its DNA to figure out what they're eating. The other thing we did is we were able to capture some hornets that were leaving the nest from that nest that was 20 feet up in the air because we had a little time to prep for removing it. They were actually carrying food pellets for the other hornets to eat. We could analyze the DNA as well. Picture on the bottom left for you is a menu. There is a link to this on our website that you can go find to read a blog about it in depth. But basically it's saying if you were a hornet and you walked up to a restaurant, you might be eating flies, beetles, bees, yellow jackets, other wasps, moths, dragonflies, butterflies, etc. Right? So they do have the chance to harm other insects populations that we're not sure of. You might notice a cow on the bottom left. If you've ever been having a picnic and had to swat an insect off of your food, well, the hornets might have stopped at some hamburger. Okay, so this kind of wraps it up into what we're going to ask of you, especially as beekeepers, especially as the public, and what you can do. Obviously, if you think you see something, see it, snap it, send it. If you think you've seen a hornet, try your best to get a picture for me. I can't confirm or deny it without being able to see it or prove it, right? If it's alive, leave it be. But if it's already dead and you want to collect it, you're more than welcome to in case we want that specimen later. The 3 ways to report: go online, call our 800 number, or shoot us an email. The fastest response you'll get is by shooting an email. The internet one is, easy. You don't have to worry about talking to anyone, and you can go back in and check your status update later. Okay, trapping, right? Some of you did this last year. Definitely you can do it again. It's going to be the same thing using rice, cooking wine, and orange juice. Set your trap up, hang it from a tree in July. Check it once a week through November, okay? Say you go away on vacation, that's fine. Take your hornet trap down, put it back up when you return, okay? Website instructions can be found on our website. Last year, I was able to supply the Beekeeping Association with rice, cooking wine, and orange juice, and I can do that again this year, okay? So we just have to figure out how many people want to trap, and I'll drive them up to you so you can distribute and get them all, okay? Super easy to do. If you have questions on it, start thinking about them and I will answer them. Last year, we used a star shape opening for the entrance into the bottle. This year, we'll be using an H shape. The idea is if you hang a trap from a tree, right, and the hornet flies by, it smells the scent of that bait and gets lured in, okay? That sweet, sugary carbohydrates is what they use to propel themselves forward while they're hunting, okay? So they're attracted to it, they like it. The next new thing that we're going to be doing is I actually just launched an Adopt a Wasp campaign. And the idea of this is we have seen hornets repeatedly over years eating paper wasp nests. So we've seen them, and a couple residents have noticed it too. So now we're going to actually ask residents to go out, look at your outbuildings, look at your various sheds, poles, basketball hoops, anywhere that might contain a paper wasp nest, and to actually monitor it. So what you do is you find the paper wasp nest, go to our website, log its location, and then each week we ask you to go back outside, watch it for 5 to 10 minutes, and then go back and do a check-in. Okay, so this lets us know how many people are actually looking for the paper wasps in the area and how many people are actually checking them weekly. Okay, so the last thing that we're doing right now, in case you haven't heard about it in the news, is Sven and Chris are actually over in South Korea right now, setting up some monitoring stations, working with overseas researchers to try to figure out if there's anything that the hornets might be more attracted to try to figure out how far queens can potentially fly, and a couple other things behind the scenes. So they'll be back in about 2 weeks, and then the researchers overseas are going to continue to collect data and follow the hornets for us. Over on the right, you can see where we're going to be trapping again in that Blaine and Linden area, and then again in Bellingham. So WSDA won't actively be trapping down by you. So monitoring that spread is solely going to come from the public, looking and reporting by Adopt a Wasp or trapping, because we will not be actively trapping in your area. Okay, so that's kind of it. That's all I have from me. If you have any questions, now is a great time to ask them.
Hey, Cassie. Hello.
I can hear you.
Okay, I have a small farm up in Everson, Washington. Should I put traps up there too?
Yeah, you're more than welcome to. Anyone in Washington can trap. Obviously, people on the eastern side of Washington, the climate isn't as conducive for the hornets as us over here in western Washington. If you want to set one by your beehive,
No,
it's gonna be the first thing that's going to catch it. Or it's going to be the first thing that gets it. You're welcome to trap inside the zone or outside of the zone. The more traps, the better, because the hornet has to fly by to smell the scent of the bait to get lured in. It's not going to be attracted from, 5 to 10 miles away.
this is in Whatcom County. Everson.
Yeah, I know. The more traps,
Okay.
the better. That's
Gotcha.
yeah. The hornets, they're not going to fly from 5 to 10 miles away. We only have one trap set up per every square mile. So the more traps, the better. And we actually aren't going as far east as Everson. It's kind of the eastern side of Linden is pretty much how far we're going.
Okay.
Okay, that was a lot of information. Thanks, Cassie. You did a great job on going through all that information. And I know there's a lot of other resources. And last year you sent me like a list of things, like papers that were directly dealing with maybe how beekeepers could, if there is any preparation against this. But right now, mainly people confuse this hornet with the Asian hornet in Europe, the one that they're used to dealing with in Europe, not the velutina, Vespa velutina instead of Vespa mandarinea. And this one's the mandarinea. So I know you sent us a bunch of, I know I've got it, all kinds of resources that you had. The lookalikes too. There was a lookalikes. There's like a place you can go. When you start thinking, I see something orange black, and you can go directly there, and you go, oh, it's really a cicada killer, or just send it in and ask you to ID with the picture. But sometimes people would like to check themselves and not sound silly.
Yeah, I'm trying to load the website page to just show you where to find it, but it's not. I don't know what's up with my computer. It won't load it just load the webpage. So it's just, I'll type it in the chat box, and then essentially there's going to be tabs at the top of that webpage. I wonder if maybe the whole website's down.
Because sometimes when I end up going into the websites different ways, and I'm not getting directly there. So sometimes I have the feeling I'm coming in from different angles, and I'm not getting directly to where I want to get.
I'll show you.
Okay.
So you're on Google or basically any search engine, and you always go to the website. It's the website for everything hornet related. So it's going to be agr.wa.gov/hornets. That's going to be the homepage for all hornets WSDA. Okay. And it's going to look different from your phone. On the computer, you see these tabs right here, and they're nice and laid out for you. On your phone, it's just going to be a little line.
I don't think the tabs. Okay, there.
I don't know what's up with my computer. So you go to agr.wa.gov/hornets. You see all of these tabs up here. This is going to be your home base for getting to and from the pages until you click on a tab. So identification, right? Okay. Now, here's your page. Okay. Now, but to get back, you want to click back on this hornets, because here's another page you can go to, but go back to the hornets. Okay, the same thing for your beekeepers, right? So you want to click on beekeeping, and then you can find everything about beekeeping. And then remember, to get back to the home page, we just click on hornets. So that's the tips and tricks for this website, because it's a state website and that's what we get. If you ever want to know kind of like what's up in the hornet world, what's going on in WSDA news and media, okay, and then it'll have little tabs where you can see if you care about national and local or WSDA. And then to remember what we click back on to get back to the homepage and our cool tabs, the hornets, right? So that's how this web page works. It's not the most user friendly, but You know, it's where we keep the chunk of all the information. If you want to learn about trapping and you want to learn about the Adopt a Wasp, it's going to be this citizen science tab, because before we only used to ask people to trap, but now we're asking people, hopefully it loads. Okay. We're asking people that they can also survey for the paper wasp nest to see if you see Asian giant hornets. So if you do either of them, you're being a citizen scientist. So if we want to learn about trapping, right? Remember, we click citizen scientist. Okay. And then from there, you can learn how to trap or build an Adopt a Wasp. And then last time, do you remember how to get back to the homepage? More fun. Okay. It's just from your phone too. It's like it's just a little gray box, and you click on it and then it'll drop down the other tabs for you. But that's just how the Department of Agricultural website works. And I do actually pretty actively update it. A couple of times a week, I throw different things on there. So anytime you go, you might find different information, but the tabs will stay the same.
Thank you so much. I want to show everybody something. I found it on my house. It's a wasp. I'm sorry, I don't know how it's called correctly.
The paper wasp nest.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, and so we definitely want to do it again. We got 35 trap kits out last year. People do need to get their own bottles this year, right? And then the trapping instructions will show how to make the H cut instead of the star. And we make that on like 3 sides of the trap, right? Because last year I told people only one side, and then somebody pointed out it should be on 3 sides.
Yeah, I actually have a plastic card I'll give you that has like a template, so you can just trace the H on there and then cut it out. But yeah, you can see it's an H shape this year. We used them the first year. So we're going to be going back to using them. It just seemed to be kind of hard for people to keep the star shaped pattern open last year. So it's, make the trap. You can use any bottle. It can be a round pop liter bottle. It doesn't have to be a square bottle. It's whatever you have on handy.
Cassie, I have a question. What did you guys, or have you completed the DNA testing to see if all of those hives are related to each other, or if we have different queen lines that have been in?
Related really isn't the correct term that I can use, because there isn't kind of enough genetic DNA diversity that's been studied based off of hornets coming. There just kind of isn't enough data, right? I guess what I can say is basically based off the first, so there was a nest discovered in Nanaimo, British Columbia, and then we had our first nest. Different, okay? But all of the hornets that have been discovered in Washington do have the same connection to the first nest that was introduced and discovered in Washington. As far as wise, there isn't different genetic diversity within those nests. So they're essentially coming from the same introduction. Now, the introduction to Nanaimo, completely different. Does that make sense? It's like, yes, they're related, but also there isn't a whole lot of information to say exactly where they're coming from. We just know that they're like each other because they don't study the crap out of them overseas.
Right.
Okay.
So did Nanaimo, so up in BC, are they still doing ongoing trapping, and did they find anything last year?
So they caught one in a trap last year. It was directly north to the first nest we removed, right on the border, and it was captured inside of a Japanese beetle trap. Beetle traps, you really only check maybe once a month unless you're actively catching beetles. They're kind of just to monitor and make sure that the beetles aren't there or be a first detector of them. What happened was we went in, we removed the nest. They checked the trap about 3 weeks later and had a hornet inside of it. It very well could have came from the nest we removed, but it sat in a trap for about a month, so it's too degraded to grab DNA from. They had no other detections or confirmations. I talked to BC, well, actually like 3 days ago. They did set up spring traps. They've been monitoring them throughout the spring. They do the same things we do, ask people to report, ask people to trap. And they will continue to do that as well.
And you're still looking at eradication and not the other level that I don't know the term for?
Yep, eradication, complete removal versus control, dealing with it, keeping the population down.
That's good.
And Cassie, we really don't start until July because we don't want to trap too many beneficial insects until we're really going to catch something when the nest population has built up somewhat, right?
Yep.
Okay, that's the way I understood it. So we still have plenty of time to get the traps out to everybody, get the materials from you, and figure out a couple of distribution points.
Correct.
Did you get any beneficials last year? It sounded to me like there weren't bumblebees or anything in there. It was maybe fruit flies and some wasps, but nothing.
So you'll catch on my screen, well, that's a paper wasp, but you'll catch bald-faced hornets and yellow jackets, which as beekeepers, you'll be through the moon happy about that. The alcohol in the rice cooking wine will deter the honeybees. If you're catching any, it's too close to your apiary. We say keep it at least 50 feet away. I've had lots of beekeepers keep it like 10 feet away and haven't had problems. I had one beekeeper who like put it like right next to her entrance and caught like 10. And then I just had her move it a couple feet and she was fine. But overall, it doesn't really capture anything it's not supposed to. There is data on here from the first year because we collected every single insect caught, as well as asked the public to. If you want to find it, right, you go to the trapping link. And then at the very, 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 very bottom is all of the trapping data if you would like to comb through any of it.
I can vouch for the bald-faced hornets, but not very many yellow jackets, and some little unidentifiable dark fly, small, was attracted. But
that was kind of the overall consensus last year. Is there wasn't as many yellow jackets kind of in all of Washington State, kind of just through submissions and captures. It was just a little bit colder. And that might have contributed to it. That might not have.
But I was happy to catch a lot of bald-faced hornets.
All right. Well, is there anything else? If not, I am going to vomit nose.
Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah, and anything you send us, we'll make sure it gets onto our discussion group, and then
So I will too, whenever we figure out materials and I bring them by, I have Asian Giant Hornet booklets that I will also give to you. Your club can give them out. You can give them out to public, keep them for yourselves, do whatever you would like for them. Yeah.
thank you so much for once again coming in. And there were new pictures. There was new information here. Every year we get a little bit more on the Vespid we love to hate.
Yep. And then I would say last year we didn't really have any activity until August. I'm busy at fairs as well, but I would say maybe September, October, if you want another update, that would probably be a good time to reach out. We might be in the height of finding and removing nests. Hopefully, obviously we find nothing, but if something's out there, that was the time period last year.
Are you going to be at the Monroe Fair? Were you there last year?
Yeah, but I only will be at because that's the Evergreen State Fair, right?
Right.
I will only be there maybe a day or two. Actually, I can tell you what day I'm planning on being there right now. It's like a Thursday, I think, but I'll be there one day.
And can we get the really neat little specimen that I'll tell you, that was the hit last year, was everybody wanted to come see a little resin or glass encased specimen of an Asian giant hornet.
Don't you guys have one? Doesn't like your club have one or no?
No.
Oh, Well, send me an email with a mailing address because I'll send one to your club so you guys can take it to the fair.
Okay, and then we can get it back to you if we need to too.
Yeah, you can keep it. You can keep it and continue to tell people. I'll be there Thursday, the 25th.
Okay, that's the opening day.
Well, there you go.
Yep, be the very first opening day. Well, we'll have to see you, okay? Wherever you are, or you stop by and see us at the bee booth, okay?
So shoot me an email for that Riker Mound if you have any other questions, and then we'll just keep in touch and coordinate about supply distribution. Honestly, I might not even get to you until the first week in July because I'm just kind of booked up for the rest of the 2 weeks, but you're kind of like right up the road for me too. So it's a little bit easier than driving all the way to Canada. So we'll just keep in touch and figure it out.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for everything. Okay. I don't know. I'm here. Okay, well that was definitely worth sticking it out for, and there's lots of good information. And I know that Cassie sent me some like papers or something if people were interested in doing a little more research. I have an email from last year.
Are you going to keep recording or stop?
Let me stop the recording.